So how long were you stationed up at Fort Greeley?
Just shy of 2 years. Like as I mentioned, I got hired on in March, went to my school here, and then that was 2017, and then February 2019, I was transferred here.
Was it roughly around that time that you actually filed for custody of Gannon and Lena?
No, I think I actually filed for custody before I left to Alaska. So is that the time period you're talking about?
Yeah, so when did you file for custody of Gannon and Lena?
So like February or March of 2017, I don't remember specific dates, but it was before I was leaving, yes, sir.
Do you remember a specific incident occurring prior to you leaving for training where you and the defendant got into an argument?
Yes,
in
sir.
2017.
In 20. Don't remember. Is there more you can give me?
I can't ask you leading questions, so
Okay.
I got to ask an open-ended question.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so I think we did get into an argument, a verbal argument about me taking the job in Alaska. That was a point of tension for sure.
Did she tell you whether she was supportive of you taking that job in Alaska or not?
I don't remember specifically if she said supportive, but all indications were no.
Was that the sort of the source of the fight?
I would say yes. That was the source of many verbal disagreements and arguments in that time period.
Were you all living together at that particular time?
Yes,
When this fight occurred?
yes, sir, in the house in Myrtle Beach.
Okay. Did the defendant take specific action regarding your belongings in the house?
Yeah, yes, sir, the day I was supposed to leave to come to Colorado for training, which would have been late March. I don't remember the specific date. Yeah, she threw all my stuff in the front yard and whatever, just said I'm done with you kind of thing.
So you said, she said, I'm done with you kind of thing?
And I'm not quoting directly, but that's the theme of it. I'm done. You take your stuff and go and whatever.
Obviously the relationship didn't end then, is that right?
No, I think it was actually about a week or 8 or 9 days before we talked again. Not a lot of communication in those. I didn't talk to her the whole trip here, and then it was a couple days after I got here, I think. So, yeah, it was tough times.
You mentioned earlier that the defendant actually did come up to Alaska.
Yes, sir.
When did that occur?
Various times. I don't know. I don't remember specifically when she first showed up. Had already been there for a while, but she did come and then stayed for a week or 2 or 3 weeks here, a month there. I mean, she never moved there. I never felt like she moved there, I should say.
Well, and I'm probably just asking a bad question, but was there a period of time where it seemed as if there was a move where she actually brought Harley with her to Alaska?
Yes, there was a period of time, and this would have been that first summer, because what she told me was that she was looking for a job at the school and that she had enrolled Harley at the school in Delta Junction is the town, but that she was enrolled there. And then, that's where we're at.
Delta Junction, Alaska.
Yeah, which is where Fort Greeley, the base, is located, is Delta Junction.
So did the defendant and Harley actually come to Alaska during that time frame?
They did. There have been sometime June or July. I don't remember how long they stayed, like I said, but.
Did the defendant ever tell you, did you say something, Judge?
No.
Okay, sorry. Did the defendant ever tell you whether she enjoyed being in Alaska?
She actually told me the opposite quite a bit, that she hated it there, that we should give it back to Russia. So.
Give Alaska back to Russia?
Just give it to them, because it's so bad up there.
Would the defendant use manipulation on you in your relationship?
Absolutely.
Objection calls for speculation. Overruled.
Go ahead, you can answer.
Absolutely.
In this time period that we're talking about where you were in Alaska, and she's telling you that she hated it, did she manipulate that situation to try to get you to leave that duty station?
Yes, sir, at the end she did.
When you say the end, what do you mean by the end?
By the end, that's what, her manipulating a situation is what led me to leave Alaska.
When did the manipulation in that regard change or cause you to start to leave Alaska?
That specific incident or set of incidents would have been in the fall of 2018.
What was the nature of that manipulation?
Objection 404B. Council approach, please.
So Al, we were just getting into whether the defendant manipulated your assignment to Alaska. Did she, well, let me ask you this. There was a point in time where she raised sexual harassment claims that caused tension for you and your command in Alaska, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did that involve a Corporal Jenkins and a Lieutenant Colonel Ortega?
Captain Jenkins, and yes, Lieutenant.
Captain
Yes,
Jenkins?
sir.
Okay. Again, I don't know these National Guard ranks.
It's Army.
Army?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Army.
Again, I don't know that either. I had asked you before whether she was happy being assigned, having you all living up in Alaska, and I think you said no.
Absolutely not, yes.
Did this claim of sexual harassment, not asking you whether it was true or not, but did that lead to you eventually leaving Alaska and coming to Colorado?
Yes, sir, it did.
Were there two specific things that you witnessed that were sort of at the heart of these sexual harassment claims?
Yes, sir.
Did one of those involve Captain Jenkins?
Yes, sir.
Was that a time when you were at some establishment and there was some drinking involved?
Yeah, me and the defendant showed up for dinner, and the other person was already there and had been drinking. Yes, sir.
The other person being Captain
Captain
Jenkins?
Jenkins, yes, sir.
Was that one of the issues that the defendant raised as the basis for sexual harassment?
That situation, yes, sir, a comment he had made.
Okay. And we're not calling Captain Jenkins, so we don't need to get into what he said,
Yes, sir.
okay? And then as it relates to Colonel Ortega, did you witness a specific event that was an interaction between Lieutenant Colonel Ortega and the defendant?
Yes, sir.
What was that specific thing?
Let me describe the event.
Yes,
So
that you witnessed.
I was the S1, which is the personnel officer for the battalion. Lieutenant Colonel Ortega was the battalion commander. I was still in the office. The defendant was coming to pick me up because we only had one vehicle in Alaska. And she was coming from the house to pick me up. And when I came out of the building, he was leaning over into the truck, talking to her. I don't know what they were talking about or anything. And then as soon as he saw me, he left, didn't stop and, communicate with me, just left and walked away. And that was it.
Okay. And so did the defendant specifically use that incident as another part of the allegation of sexual harassment?
Yes, sir.
Did she file a formal complaint with your command?
There was I don't know, I don't think it was with the command. I think it went through the state. So
Okay.
the Alaska National Guard. I don't know the specifics of it. My only involvement was to basically say what I just said.
Okay. So what I'm asking you is, when I say command, again, I'm not informed on National Guard. Did she inform the National Guard of this complaint of sexual harassment?
Yes, sir.
And you knew that?
Yes, sir.
Did that cause you issues in your unit?
Yes, sir.
And did that eventually lead to you transferring from Alaska?
Yes, sir.
Was there a time when she specifically sent you a text and told you that she was pregnant?
Yes.
And did that text also include a ultrasound picture?
Yes.
Did she tell you that she was actually pregnant with twins?
Yes, sir.
Was that another form of manipulation?
Yes.
Sustained. You can ask him how he felt
Sure.
about it.
Did the defendant ever give birth to twins?
No, sir.
Did it ever turn out that she was pregnant with twins?
No, sir.
Sustained. Jury will disregard that answer.
Well, did you ever go to any doctor's appointments with the defendant?
For that specific instance, no.
Okay. Do you know whether she went to any doctor's appointments for that specific incident?
I'm confident that she didn't. No, sir.
So we talked about the sexual harassment claim and that causing tension in your unit, and that eventually leading to you transferring from Alaska, right?
Yes, sir.
When did that actual transfer occur?
Like I said previously, when I say boots on ground, I arrived here February 15th, I believe, 2019.
And I think you had previously said that the defendant preceded your move to Colorado.
Yes, sir.
When did she leave Alaska?
So she wasn't in Alaska. She came to Alaska for a couple weeks or a month, I think in December of, that would have been 2018. The kids, she brought the kids with her, that being Gannon and Elena and Harley as well. And then we stayed there. Actually, we stayed in a house on one of the bases, like a temporary house. And then, like I told you, they came ahead of me about a month and a half or so.
Okay. So you're saying that they being the defendant and the kids,
Yeah, all the names I listed, the defendant, Harley, Gannon, and Elena.
would that have been in January of 2019?
I believe they came in January because we did Christmas in Alaska.
And I think you had previously said that that the defendant actually found the 6627 Mandan Drive house, and that's where you all moved into.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the defendant filing burglary allegations in 2019?
Yes, sir.
How many different ones did she file?
I believe it was 2, to my recollection.
One of those specific claims was a burglary in the fall of 2019, correct?
Yes, sir.
And there were some things that she pointed to you to support that as being a valid burglary claim.
Yes, sir.
One of which was a hammer hanging from a string in the garage.
Yes, sir.
That included potentially somebody had maybe got into the attic access in the garage.
A squatter is how she referred to it.
Was there ever a squatter in your house?
No, sir. No one was ever found.
Did you have an ammo can in the house?
I did. Yes, sir.
Was it dumped out on the floor and made to look as if someone had rummaged through it?
Objection. Stained, you can ask him what he found and what it looked like.
Okay. Tell us what you remember about this ammo can.
In this specific break-in allegation, the ammo can, I kept it, I think next to the bed or under the bed or something, and it was open and dumped out like somebody had been rummaging through the ammo can. One of the clothes hampers was dumped out and the bed was kind of pushed, the mattress was pushed off the box spring, just enough to look like somebody had forced their way through that area.
Did the defendant tell you that that was another piece of evidence or sign that there had been a burglary in your house?
She did.
Was there also a gunshot claim?
There was.
Did this come from the defendant to you?
Yes, sir.
What did she say about that?
She claimed that she fired one of the weapons, I don't remember which one, up the storm well. That's pretty much what summation of it.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Oh, one of the weapons you said. Did you have firearms in the house?
I did, yes, sir.
What kind of weapons?
I had a 9mm, a Smith & Wesson 9mm compact. I had I don't remember the brand, but it was a black and Tiffany green 9mm full size. I also had AR pistol type gun. There was a 20 gauge Benelli youth shotgun and a 12 gauge. It was all black shotgun. I forget the brand. And then I think there was at least one Smith & Wesson little 380 compact as well.
So when she's telling you that there was a weapon that she fired in I think you said the storm well, is that the window well?
Yeah, and the specific one was the window well next to, if you remember the picture where the computers were, there was a window well right behind those computers. That's the one she said that she fired it out of.
Did you ever find a shell casing associated with that gunshot?
No, sir.
In that particular, those pistols that you're talking about, the Smith & Wesson 9mm, that what sounds like a Tiffany green or blue 9mm, and that 380, are those semi-automatic handguns?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with semi-automatic handguns?
Sir.
Have you fired them?
Uh, I, I don't know specifically the 380.
So what I'm asking is generalized. Have you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
When you fire those weapons, does the slide automatically slide back and eject the shell casing?
Ejects it and then loads the next round into the chamber.
Did you ever see any evidence that that gun had been fired in that window well in the basement?
No, sir.
Did the defendant ever admit to you that she made up those burglary claims?
Yes, sir.
What did she say?
I don't remember specifics, but I don't know how much you want me to elaborate, but I had to do some digging, and eventually I found out that most of the stories she had told was just not accurate, and then she finally admitted to making up the claims of break-ins. I don't remember if she gave a reason why either.
In your mind, was that another attempt or attempts at manipulating what was happening in your relationship?
Absolutely.
At some point in 2019, did you and the family get into family counseling?
Not family counseling.
Well, counseling.
Yeah, Gannon and Lena specifically.
Okay. What about the defendant?
To my knowledge, I don't think she had counseling.
Okay. Did she make specific comments to you about Gannon that led to you wanting to get Gannon into this counseling?
Yeah, there was two reasons. And do you want me to elaborate on that?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as these are things that she told you as to things that led you to want to get Gannon into counseling.
Yes, sir. One of the reasons is the other reason was, like I said before, he was a mama's boy, and both the kids had struggles with, we had a little bit of back and forth of custody issues. So that was part of the reason. The other reason is she made a claim that he was coming after her to some degree.
He and her.
Gannon coming after the defendant to some degree. And so, once again, twofold mission with the counseling. One, to make sure he's dealing with his, the situation with his mom and being apart from her. And then also counseling should uncover anything else that's going on or any disdain he had for the defendant.
Who was the defendant closer to as far as the two little kids? So Gannon and Lena.
Lena, undoubtedly.
Did you say undoubtedly?
Absolutely, she was.
Whose idea was it to move Gannon to the basement?
It was mine.
Okay. Did you ever witness Gannon displaying any behavior that would support the claim that Gannon had it out for the defendant?
Absolutely not towards no one. I absolutely never witnessed that, period.
Did you ever take family trips together?
With the defendant and the three children?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Specifically, was there a trip in early January
January.
of 2020?
That would have been just myself and the defendant.
Okay. What was that trip?
It was to celebrate our anniversary, and we went on a cruise out of southern Florida.
Did you need a passport for that cruise?
I don't believe so. No, sir.
Did you ever take any trips with the defendant that required a passport?
I don't remember specifically. We had one when we went through Canada just to get it stamped, just for, remembrance. I don't remember specifically. Well, we did. We went to Mexico. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yep. Sorry, I forgot about that.
that's okay. So that leads to this question. Did you have a passport?
I did. Yes, sir.
When you said you went to Canada to get it stamped?
Mhm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes, sir.
When you went to Mexico, did you get your passport stamped?
Yes, sir.
Did you see her with a passport?
In Mexico, yes.
Did she get that passport stamped in Mexico?
I don't remember. I would assume it would have had to been, because we went to a resort in Mexico, so
But you know for a fact that she did have a passport.
she did, absolutely.
In this and I'm going to ask you to give me a more specific timeline, but in late 2019, early 2020, where was the defendant working at that time?
Early 2020, I don't know, but late in 2019, she was employed, I believe it's Whitefield School District 3 and French Elementary School, as I referenced earlier. She was attempting, is what she
Well,
told.
let me get to that. I'll get to that in just a second. So she was working in late 2019 at Whitefield School District.
Mhm.
That's
sir.
it?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
And again, that's for our court reporter.
Absolutely.
She'll get mad at me in a minute if we keep doing that. Was she enjoying her work there?
She was not,
Did she tell you that?
absolutely.
What did she tell you?
She had a conflict based on her educational status. She had a conflict with a principal where she thought she was more educated and should have more of a leadership role. And then just other stuff surrounding that. I don't remember specifics, but
So let's unpack that a little bit. When you said that she had a conflict because she felt like she was more educated, you mean the defendant felt like she was more educated than the principal?
yes, the defendant, yes, sir.
Did you ever go to French Elementary School?
I did, yes, sir.
How many times did you go visit her there?
I don't remember exactly, but I would cook lunch and take her lunch for her and her coworkers. And you can elaborate on that a little bit?
Just, you would go there and take lunch?
Yeah, with her and sit and eat sometimes with her. Sometimes I would drop it off. Yes,
Did
sir.
you see her interactions with people at the school?
Yes, sir.
Did you see any problems with anybody at the school?
Not with her, the team that she was always with.
That conflict that you described with her and the principal, did that lead to her manipulating, in your mind, getting out of that particular school?
Allow it, overruled.
In my mind, it did, in accompanying with an injury claim she had as well.
Did she, okay, so let's ask, I'm going to ask you about that.
Okay.
Did she specifically tell you about some allegations she made about being injured at the school?
Yes, sir.
What did she tell you?
That she was standing on a bench or standing on the bookshelf or something, but she fell and a bookshelf fell and hit her in the head, and she had a head injury from that.
Did you ever see any signs on the defendant of being injured from either falling or having a bookshelf fall on her head?
No, sir.
Did that lead you to believe that this was another manipulation by the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Did she tell you what kind of work she was hoping to get into?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
She always had talked about wanting to be a airline flight attendant. And so I think from what I understand, she started pursuing that late 2019 through the Christmas holiday and into early 2020.
Who was she pursuing employment with?
Spirit Airlines.
Where's Spirit Airlines out of, to your knowledge?
I have no clue. I know she went to Orlando, Florida for Spirit Airlines training is what she told me.
When did that happen?
I think shortly after Christmas, within a day or two after Christmas, 2019. And it was a short trip.
You mentioned earlier when we were first talking about the weekend of January 25th, Saturday, Sunday, January 26th, your mom being in town.
Yes, sir.
When did your mom get into town here in Colorado Springs?
She was here for about a week, if I remember correctly. I don't remember a specific date, but she was there, I think, that whole week.
Did she stay in a hotel or at the house?
At the house.
Where did she sleep?
Oh, I don't remember that specific time where she slept.
Okay. You mentioned that there was Gannon's bed in his bedroom.
Mhm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes, sorry.
And then there was a second bed in Gannon's bedroom.
Yes,
And then there was a bed in Harley's bedroom.
yes,
There was the master bedroom.
yes.
And then you had couches both downstairs and upstairs. Do you remember, with that in mind, where your mother slept when she visited you in?
I still don't, not that
Okay.
specific visit.
Okay. How were you and the defendant getting along during this period of time when your mom was visiting?
Not well.
How was the defendant interacting with your mom?
I think it was fine and peaceful. I don't remember it being there any negativity.
Was there anything out of the ordinary?
I don't remember.
Okay. You mentioned going up to DIA on January 25th after having dinner and all that sort of stuff. Is that the last time you saw Gannon alive?
Yes, sir.
Did you say anything to him?
Yeah, he was, we were at the top of the stairs and I was getting ready to leave with mom and me and Gannon were at the top of the stairs and I just gave him a hug and I always used to rub my fingers through his hair and just told him I love you and something I would always tell the kids when I had to leave or when they would go back to their mom's house was like, you know, you're always going to be in my heart and I'm always going to be in your heart. And I'll see you when I get back. And he's like, okay, Daddy, love you. And I'm going to finish watching Pokemon. I remember it like it was yesterday. Yep.
We got into this a little bit earlier about the phones, and I asked you specifically about the phone that was assigned to Gannon and Lena, and whether law enforcement asked you for access to that phone. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Yep, I remember. Pops
You recognize this?
Absolutely. That's their
What is
phone.
this?
That's Gannon and Lena's phone from that time period.
Does it appear to be changed at all?
It does not.
Okay. Your Honor, move for admission of People's 228.
No objection. Exhibit 228 will be admitted.
I asked you earlier about when you would take trips together. Do you remember taking a trip to Hawaii?
Yes, sir.
When did that occur? You okay?
Yes.
Is there Kleenex up there?
Yeah, I got some.
Okay.
I think 2018 spring. It was right before that volcano erupted. So I think it was spring of 2018.
Who went on that trip?
The defendant, myself, all three children, Harley, Gannon, and Elena.
Do you remember taking a video of Gannon in Hawaii?
Yeah, we took multiple pictures and videos. Yes, sir.
People's Exhibit number 15. If you need to take it out of the sleeve, you can do that.
Excuse me. I recognize it. I recognize my initials right there.
What is People's Exhibit 50?
Now I also see the date of when I initialed it. It says Facebook video of Gannon Stauch.
Is this a video of Gannon in Hawaii?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
And you saw the content
I
of
did.
this disc?
Yes, sir.
Is it a fair and accurate copy of that recording from Gannon in Hawaii?
Yes, sir.
All right, move for admission of People's 50.
Leany,
You approach.
is there an objection?
Yes, it's relevant.
Alan?
Do you want me to say it from here? Yes.
All right. Mr. Allen?
Yep, so we'll come back to that in a moment, Al.
Yeah, Mr. Allen, you need to refer to the witness by Mr. Stauch.
Okay. I want to go back to what we were asking, or what I was asking you about earlier about the defendant telling you that Gannon had it out for her. Did she make a specific comment to you about Gannon and a knife
Yes, sir.
to you?
Yes, sir.
What was that comment?
Something about he had threatened her with a knife or came at her with a knife.
Did you ever see Gannon threaten anybody with a knife?
No threats ever out of Gannon, knife or no knife.
And was that right before you got Gannon into counseling in 2019?
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you about, specifically, I asked you earlier about trips that you would take together.
Mhm.
You also mentioned that the defendant was trying to get a job with Spirit Airlines.
Yes, sir.
Did she like to travel?
She loved to travel. Yes, sir.
Did she like to travel to Disney?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever go with her to Disney?
Yes, sir. In various configurations of family, I should say.
Did she ever take any other trips that you were aware of, either with you or without you?
Yes, sir.
Did you take cruises with her to the Caribbean?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever take any cruises to the Caribbean by herself that you knew about?
I don't know about by herself. I know with just Harley, I know she took a few.
Okay. What about to Australia?
Never heard of a trip to Australia. No, sir.
What about a trip to Bogota, Colombia?
Never heard of a trip to Bogota, Colombia either, sir.
What about Jamaica?
Don't know about Jamaica. Like I said, she went on trips to the Caribbean, so I can't attest to that.
Okay. You mentioned that cruise in Florida in, I think you said in January 2020 to celebrate your anniversary.
Yes, sir.
That was just you and the defendant.
Yes, sir.
Did you take other cruises together?
Yes, sir.
Did you take a cruise in Southern California?
We left out of Southern California, went to Ensenada,
When was that roughly?
Mexico. While I was in Alaska, I don't remember exactly. So between 2017 and 2018, somewhere.
Did you take another cruise with the defendant in the summer of 2019?
We did, yes, sir.
Who was on that trip?
Myself, the defendant, Harley, and Gannon, and I think one of Harley's friends as well.
You mentioned taking a trip to Mexico. When was that?
That would have been right before I went to Oklahoma for 6 months, so 2016,
Where in Mexico did you go?
Cancun.
Was the defendant with you?
Yes,
Was she with you besides going to the bathroom or shopping or something like that, was she basically with you the whole time during that trip?
yeah. There was one time I was sleeping and she said she went out and got dinner. Other than that, I think we were together 90% a majority of the trip.
Did she ever tell you about waking up in a tent with cartel members?
Never heard that story from her mouth, sir. No.
Did you ever have stressors in your relationship between you and the defendant as it relates to finances?
Yes, sir.
What kind of lifestyle did the defendant want to live while you were with her? Based on things that either she told you or that you saw?
A classic example is she always compared herself and wanted to be like Kim Kardashian. That was kind of her main thing she looked towards. I think a best way to sum it up is always wanted to live above our means.
To live above your means?
Yes, sir. That's a good way to sum it up.
Did you agree to being living above your means?
There was examples where I gave and there was examples where I didn't.
But was that ultimately a source of tension between you and the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever accuse you of infidelity or cheating?
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you about that storage room. Was it typical that you would keep luggage in that storage room?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember any specific suitcases that were kept in there?
Yeah, there was like a reddish orange one. They had some flowery, I don't know how to explain it, but some patterns on it. There was a large green one. I'd say extra large green one, actually. There was a few smaller, like carry-on size black suitcases. So we had quite a few.
Where did the large green one come from?
I believe that, well, I know for a fact it came from Landon, which is Gannon's mother, her Aunt Veronica. Landon took a trip there at some point in mine and Landon's relationship, and she came back with that suitcase full of clothes. And I just kept it after me and Landon split up.
Where, and was that also stored in that storage
It
room?
was.
Did you ever use that large green suitcase on trips?
I used it more so when I moved or PCS'd. I don't remember using it on a trip or vacation because it was just too big.
Do you remember being shown a picture of a suitcase under a bridge in Florida?
Yes, sir.
Did you recognize that suitcase?
Yes, sir.
What did you recognize it as?
That same extra large green suitcase from my house.
Want to have you flip to People's Exhibit number 48 in that notebook?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
What is that a picture of?
That's a picture of that extra large green suitcase we've been discussing.
Under a bridge?
I can see the footings of the bridge. I can't really see the bridge structure itself, but
Does that appear to be the same suitcase that we've been talking about that Landon's Aunt Veronica gave to Landon when you and Landon were married?
yes, sir.
That was stored in the storage room.
Yes, sir.
You want to move for admission of People's Exhibit 48?
No objection. Exhibit 48 will be admitted. Go ahead.
And may we publish? Oh, there we go. What do you remember about that suitcase other than it being large?
There was a few things that were broken on it. I don't know if I remember. I don't know if the wheel was, but I think the handle on the other side was broken. There's a few things that had just worn down over time on it. But the size is the big thing. I remember how large the suitcase was. So
Okay. All right. All right, may I approach?
You may.
What's been marked as People's Exhibit number 33. Obviously a disc. Do you recognize this disc?
I do
How do you recognize it?
because I initialed and dated it 31 March.
Did you watch the contents of this disc?
I did.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of a video that you have seen?
Yes.
Okay. I move for admission of People's Exhibit 33.
Defense? Objection. Exhibit 33 will be admitted. Go ahead.
In permission to publish, right?
You may.
We need the screen, Judge.
It's not, you're not feeding yet. I have a pre-screen up here so that I can see. Okay.
Two, I just don't know what to do.
Well, devastating. Initially, Scott, I can't lie when the TMZ information.
Gannon, I promise this is the last time I'm gonna ask you. I'm just freaked out, okay? Are you sure you didn't do it on purpose? I did it. Okay, you promise. You promise. Pinky promise. Pinky. Okay, all right, so, listen. We're, all right, we're gonna have to sell stuff to fix it, okay? So, we figure out what we gotta sell. We can sell the sofa, we can sell whatever, because we got to get it fixed. So, lady, don't be mad at us and kick us out the house. Okay? You got it? You got it?
I'm just worried about my
Okay, shh. Listen. So, tomorrow,
Tell us a couple of.
Council approach for a moment, please.
I just don't know what to do.
That you can see. Who is that? Who's
That's
that?
Lena, absolutely.
And then the email voice that you hear on that recording, who is that?
Tisha, excuse me, the defendant.
And then the other voice that you hear towards the end, whose voice is that?
Those are the last words I ever heard Gannon speak.
Want to have you jump back into that binder, Mr. Stauch, and look at People's Exhibits 19 and 20. Ones I mistakenly tried to admit without any foundation earlier.
Okay.
You recognize those?
19 and 20, yes, sir.
Are those, well, what are they?
Those are two different angles, pictures of Gannon in his bed.
Have you seen those pictures before?
I have, yes, sir.
When did you see them?
I don't want to mix it up. I know I've seen them in through various things, but one of these specifically, or at least one, if not both, the defendant sent to me that morning, which would have been Monday, the 27th.
Okay, so we're talking about January 27th of 2020?
Yes, sir.
And then you received those specifically from the defendant?
Yes, sir.
What method did you receive them from?
Text message.
Text message. Are they fair and accurate copies of the photos that you received on January 27, 2020?
Yes, sir.
I move for admission and permission to publish 19 and 20.
Mr. Tellini, exhibits 19 and 20 will be admitted.
So I think we have People's Exhibit 19 up on the screen now. Tell the jury what we're looking at in People's 19.
So once again, that's Gannon in his bed. I referenced the TV off to the left. You can see it here, a TV in his dresser. The table we discussed earlier, and then once again, there's Gannon in his bed.
Is that typically the way Gannon would sleep in his bed with the blankets just piled on top like that?
No, sir. There was a couple things I noticed that were different. There seemed to be a big, I don't know, pillow or bulge or something down here. I don't remember this red and green blanket actually being on his bed, or we've discussed that. I don't remember that.
Okay.
I can't say 100% that it wasn't ever, but
And then People's 20? This basically just another depiction of that same scene?
yeah, it appears to be. I think it's different though, because is it okay if I show
Well,
differences? Or?
let me ask you this. Is there a difference between the two photos based on your observations?
Yeah,
of it?
absolutely.
What are those differences?
If you look at where his hand is here, and if you look, if we can go back to the other one, his hands are in a totally different position. See how his hands were crossed right here, the blanket's kind of pulled back a little bit. And then a huge thing to me was his bed was almost never pulled away from the wall like this. And we discussed that in a previous photo, that his bed was almost always pushed up against the wall.
And then that the bulge that you referenced in the other photo, in people's 19,
Same as right here. Yeah, right there,
and then 20.
right here. And notice that difference as well.
And do you even recognize that particular blanket, or was you recognize it, but you don't think it was typically on Gannon's bed?
Yeah, that blanket is one that was in our house somewhere. I just don't think it was a typical blanket. It wasn't his.
Was not his.
It was not his blanket, and it was not typically on his bed.
Okay. You can take that down for now. I want to jump back, Mr. Stout, to when we were talking about your trip to Hawaii in 2018. And I previously showed you People's Exhibit number 50, which was that disc. I think I might have left it up here. Let me check, actually.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You want to, this time I move for admission of people's request permission to publish.
Mr. Tellini,
Subject to prior objection.
objections?
That was me. I hit the mic.
Okay, all right. The objection is overruled. Exhibit 50 is admitted.
And permission to publish, huh?
You may.
So before we start playing People's Exhibit 50, who do we see on screen there?
Gannon.
Go ahead and play it.
Guys, where are you at? In Hawaii, go.
When you got back from Oklahoma, Mr. Stout, did you participate in searches for Gannon?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about what you did to look for Gannon.
The first day, which would have been Tuesday, 28th, left the airport and then came home and just got somewhat organized. And then there was a story about Gannon running away or walking away. And there was, somebody said they might have seen him at a gas station in Fountain. And so,
So let me ask you specifically, you don't know whether that was a true statement or not, correct?
in the moment, I didn't, no.
Okay. But did that cause you to go do things to see if that was in fact a legitimate sighting of Gannon?
Yes, sir.
What did you do?
Myself and the defendant in my truck, my red Nissan truck, drove to that gas station. I went in, well, I think I met the officer there, if I remember correctly, and went in and watched whatever he allowed me to watch the footage of what boy that was alleged to be Gannon coming in and out of the store, and so I could confirm if it was him or not.
Was it Gannon?
It was not. It was another boy with his father that, or whatever, another boy with an older man.
Just wasn't Gannon.
It just was not Gannon, no, sir.
What else did you specifically do to look for Gannon?
There was times when after the day was over, I'd drive around at night just seeing if I could spot him. That specific, I believe it was Tuesday as well, I had been downtown to the sheriff's office, given an interview, and then came back home and checked on the girls, being Harley and Lena, and then told them I was going out searching again, and went to the Walmart in Fountain. I was heading to the Walmart in Fountain, just maybe he's in the video game section or GameStop or something. Just thinking of places he would be. And then it occurred to me, or I remembered that the defendant had said her car was at French Elementary School. And so I never actually went to Walmart. I went directly to French Elementary School to look for her vehicle.
And you previously told us that you didn't see her vehicle there?
Absolutely not. I drove around the school 3 times just to make sure I wasn't missing it.
Did she ever tell you where her car actually was?
Never did. That was the only thing she ever told me, was that I left it at French Elementary School.
At some point, based on things that you're learning, did you, in your mind, did it change from Gannon didn't come home from a friend's house to something different?
That was really the key moment. There was a lot of things we've discussed, a number of them, some discrepancies in the pictures, the rent-a-car situation. I think I had already known at that point that I had talked to my neighbors, and surveillance from their house, he had never walked.
Stay.
Well, I think what he's describing, Judge, is what he saw on surveillance.
You can't talk about what your neighbor said to you, but you can describe what you saw on the surveillance tape.
So 2 different circumstances. This is not the surveillance tape of the truck. This is,
Let me ask a question.
yeah, thank you.
Did you have an occasion to see surveillance video from neighbors in your neighborhood? Did you?
Yes,
Okay. Did you see Gannon ever walking away on those videos from your house and never returning?
I did not. No, sir.
Okay.
So back to.
So, well, I have to
Okay.
ask a question.
Okay.
So you were earlier describing an accumulation of things that led you to change your opinion or your mind as to what actually happened with Gannon.
Yes, sir.
And you said, I think one of the big things was the defendant telling you that her car was at French, you go to French, and it's not there.
Yes, sir.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, that was the key moment when I switched from, she knows more than she's telling me she knows.
Did you also participate in interviews at the sheriff's office as it relates to the investigation into Gannon's disappearance?
I did, yes, sir.
How many times did you go to the sheriff's office?
Twice on that day, once before the driving to French, and then immediately following that, I called them and said something's wrong, and I went immediately back to the sheriff's office after that.
In that same time frame, did the defendant add any additional information that she told to you as it relates to Gannon's missing?
I don't believe so. I don't think so.
Well, did she at some point tell you that she was raped?
That was the next morning.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What did she say about being raped?
I'm not sure the date.
Sure, I'll clarify. We were talking about January 28th,
Yes, sir.
just
Tuesdays,
now,
yeah.
about you doing interviews at the sheriff's office. You said the next morning, so that would be January 29th. Is that accurate?
Wednesday, January 29th. Yes, sir.
What did the defendant tell you on January 29th as it relates to being raped?
So I slept on the couch. She called me into the room, and then she proceeded to tell me a story about how a man got in the house somehow. I don't remember that specific version, but he got in the house, raped her, abused her, beat her, and then beat Gannon up and took Gannon. And you want me to keep going on that specific?
I want you to tell what she said in that particular story.
Right, and then she also said he had got burned, and that, and then she said that, well, I said, well, where's everything at? Like all the mess, the blood and everything. She said, well, I cleaned it up. I got scared, and so okay, well, where's the bloody mess, the clothes, the rags, whatever. Well, I disposed of it. Well, where did you dispose of it? It wasn't in the trash can at the house. It was somewhere else. And it was just this long string of stuff.
Okay, so let me break in there.
Sure.
It sounds like the way you're describing that's a discussion that you had specifically with her, where you're asking her questions and she's responding to your questions.
Well, there was 2 parts, and that's why I asked you about elaborating. The first one was just her talking.
Okay. And so, but the last part that you just described, it sounded like you were describing an interaction where you're asking questions and she's answering questions.
Yes, and at this point, Landon was also sitting in there talking with us as well, just to
Okay.
clarify.
When you had the opportunity to view neighbors, I guess ring doorbells or surveillance videos, did you see any strange men on those videos going to your house?
So to clarify, I did, and I was stopped because it was hearsay, but I never saw surveillance of him leaving or not leaving on foot. And I'm sure we'll get to the other surveillance later, but I never saw that. That was just what the neighbors told me. So
What I'm
clarify.
asking you right now, Al, or Mr. Stauch, I apologize, is, did you see on any of the neighborhood video, any strange men going into or out of your house
Sir.
when,
I think he just said he never watched any videos. This was just what the neighbors had told him.
that's not what he said.
No, he overruled. Re-asked the question.
Yep. Just so the record is very clear.
Okay.
Did you watch surveillance video from neighbors in your neighborhood to see anything as it relates to Gannon's disappearance?
No, sir.
You didn't watch
Well-
any videos?
Well, I did watch the one video with the truck, but I don't think we've gotten there yet, or are we there? I don't know where we're at,
Okay.
Mr. Allen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. What I'm asking is very specifically, did you watch some neighborhood video from neighborhood surveillance video about the time that Gannon went missing?
I watched one, and that was him leaving the truck and coming back home. That's
Okay.
the only one I watched.
Okay, so you didn't watch any other videos to see, to either confirm or not confirm that a strange man had come into the...
I've seen nothing
Okay,
else.
all right, thank you for clarifying that. At some point, did you become involved in the investigation?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about that.
At some point, and I don't know the reasons why, but I was directed to go to the FBI's office and start, I call it being questioned, but just kind of given a background history of our relation, mine and the defendant's relationship, and kind of what we've been doing so far this morning. And from that, it turned into pretext phone calls.
Okay, what do you mean by pretext phone calls?
Phone calls where I would get on the phone with the defendant while I was at the FBI office and be giving direction, and they also gave me the flexibility to talk with her normally, but be given direction on things to say and things to ask and whatnot.
Who was involved with that process? Obviously you were, but who else from the investigation side was involved in that process?
So, of course, yeah, I was there. The defendant was on the phone, and then there was Mark Riley was present.
So I'm going to break in every time you say a name. Who is Mark Riley?
Mark Riley, I think a detective at the sheriff's office or investigator. I'm not sure his role at the time. Jess Bethel, a similar role to Mr. Riley, from what I understand. FBI agent, Mr. Hughes. I don't know his title, a specific title. Amber Cronin,
Who was Amber Cronin with?
FBI as well. John, I always say his name wrong, Grusing or Grusling.
Grusing?
With the FBI. I saw in passing other agents, but those were the ones that I remember being specifically in there. There may have been others. I don't remember specifically.
Do you remember maybe like this agent back here, Andrew Cohen?
I remember him walking around a lot. I don't remember him being specifically with me on any of the phone calls. I may be wrong about that, but
Would these phone calls originate sometimes by you calling the defendant and other times where the defendant would call you?
yes, sir.
How do you know that it was the defendant on the other end of that phone?
I recognize her voice, and we would always talk about something relevant that would, I would know it was her, whether it was Gannon or something about our relationship or our life in general.
Would you also in those conversations talk about specifics to the investigation?
Yes, sir.
Would the FBI agents or the sheriff's office agents, detectives, pass information to you to specifically ask the defendant?
Yes, sir.
On some of those recorded phone calls, can you actually hear people whispering to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Judge, what I intend to get into next is admitting discs and then playing those discs. And some of these phone calls are pretty long. I don't know if you want to go through the admission now and then we can do that other process when we get back, or
So are any of them less than, say, 15 minutes?
because of contextual issues, I think it makes sense to play them in order as opposed to breaking them up. The very first one is 1 hour and 57 minutes.
All right, so let's do the foundational elements necessary for ignition.
Okay.
And then we can play them after lunch. And probably just admit all of them at the same time.
Yep.
And then go from there.
And so for the record, Judge, what I'll be showing him for admission is People's Exhibits 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, and 59.
Okay,
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
you may go ahead.
Can I just stay up here with this?
Yeah, that's fine.
People's Exhibit 35, obviously a disc again. Do you recognize it?
To the front of it. Yes, my initials and the date.
Have you had a chance to listen to this recording that's on this disc?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of that phone call?
Yes, sir.
People's Exhibit 36, do you have your initials and date on that one as well?
Yes, sir.
Did you listen to this recording?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate representation of that recording?
Yes, sir.
People's 37, are your initials and date on this?
Yes, sir.
Have you had a chance to listen to this item?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate representation of that recording?
Yes.
People's 38, do you have your initials and date?
Yes, sir.
Have you listened to the contents of this disc?
Yes, sir.
Is it a fair and accurate representation?
Yes, sir.
39, do you have your initials and date?
Yes.
Have you had a chance to listen to the contents of this disc?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate?
Yes, sir.
40, are your initials and date on this?
Yes.
Have you listened to the contents of this disc?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate?
Yes.
51, are your initials and date on this disc?
Yes.
Have you listened to the contents?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate?
Yes.
52, are your initials and date on this disc?
Yes.
Have you listened to the contents?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate?
Yes, sir.
53, are your initials and date on this disc?
Yes, sir.
Have you listened to the contents?
Yes, sir.
Fair and accurate?
Yes.
54, date and initials on this disc?
Yes.
Have you listened to the contents of this disc?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate?
Yes.
55, are your initials on this disc?
Yes.
Have you listened to the contents?
Yes.
Fair and accurate?
Yes.
56, are your initials on this disc?
Yes.
You listen to the contents?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Fair and accurate?
Yes, sir.
57, are your initials and date on this disc?
Yes.
Did you listen to the contents?
Yes, sir.
Fair and accurate?
Yes, sir.
Tedious, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Uh, your initials and date on this disc?
Yes, sir.
Have you listened to the contents?
Yes.
Is it fair and accurate?
Yes, sir.
You didn't identify that one.
Oh, I'm sorry, 58.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And then 59, initials and date?
Yes, sir.
Have you listened to the contents?
Yes.
And is it fair and accurate?
Yes, sir.
This time I move for admission of those exhibit numbers, and I can reread them, or if you have them.
I have them. Mr. Tellini?
No.
All right, exhibits 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, and 59 will be admitted. Council approach, please.